get a better understanding of the evolving China-Africa partnership, this is China-Africa Talk.
Starting a career is one of life's biggest milestones, but it also comes with difficult choices. Should you take the first job available or wait for one that matches your passion? Is it better to gain experience through an internship or jump straight into the workplace? Welcome to China-Africa Talk. I'm Gao Junya. In today's episode, my colleagues Douglas Akwach, Panina Karibe, Wilkester Nyambwa, and Jerry O'Willie share practical advice and personal stories as they answer questions from university students about navigating the transition from campus to career.
We're going to talk about career planning and finding a career path when you're just transitioning from school and into the job market. So this is titled The Career Campus. I am Jerry O'Willie, a digital media planner.
I'm Wilkester Nyambwa, I'm a field reporter.
And I'm Douglas Akwach, African Affairs Editor.
And I'm Panina Karibe, CGTN anchor and reporter.
In terms of a media production, this is the first time you're doing it, all of us.
Yeah.
Correct.
Something that's, a serious conversation that you're going to churn out. This is going to be a very lovely conversation.
Interesting.
Yeah,
very
totally
interesting,
agree.
yeah.
We do have questions here from several campuses around the country. So these are from different students and they're asking questions that they hope we can get into. Hopefully we can also give them some good advice. The very first one is from Jessica, hopefully, right?
Yes.
Jessica is asking, should I just take any job that pays the bills or hold out for something that matches my career interests? I mean, I think this is something that every student will actually have to think about. In my case, I didn't really think about the bills, to be very honest. It was fresh from high school, straight into the job. What drove me was the passion. I wanted to be in media. That's the only thing I wanted to do. I didn't really have, I guess, do I call it the maturity at the point to start thinking about, is this going to be able to pay my bills or not? But yeah, I think we also have different experiences. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, there can be a lot of groping in the dark, if I may call it that. And sometimes things are not so clear-cut the way they may appear for you as a student when you are still in school. Because I know people grow up with aspirations. Oh, I want to be a nurse, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a chef. You know, this excitement that takes over when early in life. But sometimes, at some point after school, it might be just about, should I just pay bills or should I stick to my career path? A lot of things determine that. These dynamics are also very different, country by country. We are talking about Africa, 54 countries, very diverse situations. And we are in Kenya as we speak today. Yeah, so there are countries with opportunities, but there are also countries where they talk about unemployment figures that are very high.
Yeah.
Then that might mean, should I start by paying my bills as I still want to figure out, where I want to go? Yeah, so paying bills is important, but career is just as important.
I know. The interesting thing is that I've had some people say that don't go for the money, go for the passion, because sometimes the bag might not hit right the way you're planning. Then you'll end up feeling very frustrated and hating what you do and hating your life. So it's best to do what you love. The passion will drive you even when the bag doesn't feel right. I think it's a delicate balance.
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm not quite sure. I think I would say the prudent choice from where I'm sitting is take the job, because then it gives you a cushion. It allows you to, it fuels the dream.
Right.
Like you can keep a roof over your head. And, food on your table as you chase the dream.
Yeah.
Because I think, don't be too idealistic. Don't be sitting at home and missing out on an opportunity that is available because you're waiting for an opportunity that you don't know if it's going to materialize. Right. So I would say, guys, let's be practical. I think chase the dream, polish your talent as you are putting food on your table and earning a living. That's what I think I would do.
Can I just give an example here? Fresh from university, I had a friend and, same class, done everything. And then we get out here. And I remember my first entry into media was at a local station here in Kenya. And that was an internship then. And I remember the friend got the same internship because we got that internship through a lecture back at our university. And we went for interviews, and luckily we were selected. But I remember I was very excited about it because for me, I didn't have any other connection into the media industry, and I really wanted to practice journalism. So for me, I'm grabbing this with both hands. But my friend, he actually also came in, but I think he lasted 2 weeks because he then got another job which was not really related to the media. He went to become a salesperson for one of the local organizations in Nairobi. And that was because as an intern, he was earning it was just like basic pay, and just some stipend to allow you travel from your home to the office. But then with this new job, it wasn't well paying, but it was quite significantly more than what he was getting. And of course, I maintained later on, did some work, and they saw, okay, we can bring you on board. And so I got into the industry now, fully. And my friend later on, because again, with these sales and marketing opportunities, especially in Kenya and other parts of Africa, they are always temporary. So 4 months down the line, 5 months down the line, that kind of opportunity comes to an end. And so now he realizes, you know what, I actually want to go back to the media industry. And at this point, remember, he already reported for an internship, and then he threw it away. So you basically have locked that door. And this is the delicate discussion that Penina is trying to bring. Now, there is the passion bit, and there's also the chase for the money. So you want the money, so you decide, I'm going for the money and not pursuing what probably I would want in the long term. And then now, later on, to this day, I remember at least every year he has to try and see and make a call. Is it really possible for someone to get into the industry now? But, it's for countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where we know the employment rates also are really, really high. Some of these opportunities might be very, very hard to come by. So once they come to your door and probably it doesn't work out by your own doing or other factors, sometimes getting back can be a bit challenging.
Let us see what another student is asking us here and whether we can help in terms of advice and sharing our own experiences. This is Amalia. If I want to work abroad one day, what should I be doing right now at UON to prepare? UON is University of Nairobi.
Amalia has one of the best people to answer that in you, because I remember you have actually done a show on Drain Brain, Africa's Drain Brain.
Yes,
a lot of professionals leaving the continent to pursue opportunities elsewhere. So,
thanks, Amalia. This is my short experience in terms of, I got a scholarship, a very prestigious scholarship, by the way, and it came to me as a surprise. When I was already working, for a course in the UK. And I must say I was really lucky because I was given 2 options, very top universities, Stanford or Oxford. And being who I am, I chose Oxford. So Amalia, one of the pathways to a university abroad is through scholarship. And scholarship means excellence. Actually, this was a career scholarship. It was defined. It was not a random, master's degree or some sort of, So it means within the period I had worked as a journalist, and I just did a concept. Paper. And it was very rare. It was a Reuters scholarship. It was very rare at that time for Kenyan journalists to get that scholarship. I'm told that I was the second person who got it after a Zambian got it. Or thereafter, of course, many more people have been getting it. So one pathway is through scholarships. The other pathway is actually just excelling and trying to apply for these universities abroad. And then, of course, you'll get an admission. But I want to warn you, Amalia, that these universities are very expensive, sometimes at the cost of maybe an annual fee of about even 10 million Kenya shillings. She's a student at a Kenyan university. So either through scholarship or through your own initiative by excelling at school, applying and getting admitted. And of course, Amalia, if you do get this opportunity to go and study abroad, we hope that you can come back home and help build our countries in Africa.
I think a concern that cuts across the board. There's a lot of professionals, especially with the technical bits and technical fields. There's always the interest in retaining them in Africa.
Yes.
But then Africa doesn't really have that many opportunities sometimes to absorb all of them. We see doctors going to Europe and the Americas, and sometimes they don't really come back for years. And at the same time, Africa is still struggling to, get people that are professional enough, that have the experience and expertise.
But I think she's also very lucky because we're living in a digital age, Now the world is one small village, so to speak. So she can be able to get a lot of information online on some of those niche areas where she can best excel and where the opportunities are plenty for her to grab. And like Douglas's time, there wasn't such much information that was available.
Also, the online world has made it easier also to know what to expect, because I think sometimes you get the opportunity and it's exciting when you get it here, but when you arrive there, there's so much culture shock that you are not expecting, and this can also derail you. So I hope, Amalia, that you can put in the research and that it is, if you get it, when you get it, I hope you do, that it is everything that you expect and you're able to extract everything from it.
And also, hopefully, Amalia has the option, or rather is flexible enough to even work for those companies from abroad, even from Africa. Because there are also these options nowadays where a company in the UK, in America will employ you, but still you'll work remotely.
Let's see who else has a question. This is a question from Wati. Wati asks, is it better to look for a job right after campus, or should I consider an internship or attachment first? I actually have a lot of thoughts about this. I think right now that there's a lot of competition, that waiting right up until you have completed campus and you have graduated is a little late. Especially, I will speak about our field of journalism. I think you need visibility in this particular field, and you can start building it. We go back to the digital world. People who are building their accounts online, who come online to broadcast a live event, they make themselves visible even before they have graduated. So I think by the time you're looking for an internship, you have a body of work, right, that you can show people, like, this is what I'm capable of. I'm articulate. I can do this. I can write. And so I think campus students, regardless of what they're studying, not just journalism, should start building their skills before they leave campus. It also helps them to specialize so that you have an idea. The thing that you thought you were really good at and you enjoyed, you realize maybe this is not the thing for me. You start getting an idea of where you're better placed, and you start thinking maybe I should revise my plan. Yeah, so I think it's too late if you're waiting until the graduation. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, of course, I know there is always an entry requirement. And this, sometimes I feel sad for young people who are pursuing jobs, because an ad has been run, a call for applications put out there, you apply for a job. But one of the caveats you see there, and I really think this is where internship is really important, is at least 3 months experience.
They don't, not months.
At least 3 years experience. So this thing really, it knocks me down, because I really wonder. So this is a university student who has just finished and is looking for an entry job into this career. And then they are being told at least 3 years experience. So where options begin to get narrow, I think this internship should be considered, the period of internship, as actual practice, to serve as actual practice in the career. I mean, this is just an appeal to employers, that too many young people find it very hard to get an entry job with a background of 3 years experience. It just doesn't exist. So internships can help here, so that when the next application call comes, you have something to talk about, to put on the table and make a defense of during an interview. Yes.
And this is a case that I actually went through personally. So remember, I told you my first entry into the media space was through an internship.
Right.
So, and after 3 months, now they sat me down, and now they're trying to give me a job. And I remember in my CV, the CV that I submitted now when I was looking for this job
was different.
I had added now the internship period of work experience.
Yes.
And I remember one of the panelists asking us, no, you don't have any experience, and you're here saying you have 6 month experience. Where is this coming from? And I told them, I have been working.
This period,
this is actually
correct,
experience.
yeah.
Even though it's an internship, it's already hands-on experience.
Yes.
So I already know what is expected of me. I have a proper feel of what this job demands of me. And so they actually agreed with me, and they were like, you're already in here, you have the experience now already, and so let's just continue building on that. And I think it's something that, as you say, employers need to be very open about, so that when people like Wati now come in to make applications, they can freely add the internship periods as part of
the work experience. Yeah.
Experience that they got.
You know, I agree with what you say. And because even beyond just knowing, is this the right job for me or not? I think even just as an individual growing and, you know, growing your skills when it comes to you as a person, growing yourself, I think it is important to have that internship, because I think we've had several employers also talk about, oh, you know, Gen Zs are just not serious about jobs anymore. It's something, you know, you're supposed to be at work by a particular time, and they just cannot meet the threshold of that time. And the Gen Zs are like, this is too much for me. I just want to go home. But I think the internship comes in handy because it's also a training ground for you, Wati, and also your peers. You know, it helps you understand the demands of the job, what is expected of you, like Jerry said, what is expected of you. So by the time you're now ready, primed for the job market, you also already know what most employers expect of you as an employee. So you don't get into, and I think you've studied a lot of millennials, you know, who you're likely to meet in the job spaces where you go.
In some
and
professions,
you get to understand their way of thinking also.
In some professions like the medical profession, I think internship is a very serious thing. So we talk about actually intern doctors. The standards are very high.
It's really interesting having young people give you serious questions.
Absolutely.
At your point times,
Very good
and
questions.
So this one is from Tracy. Hi Tracy, how are you? Is Tracy Kenyan?
She should be.
I'm assuming Tracy is Kenyan, yeah? So she asks, is it risky to start my own business straight out of university?
Ooh.
And what is the smartest first step if I decide to go that direction?
My goodness, can we talk about doing business in this country and in Africa? Because I think just doing business is extremely difficult, you know, whether it's straight from campus or even for us who are already practicing professionals, it's extremely difficult. When people talk about the business environment being hard right now, it is really, really hard. In Kenya, we have this mentality of a side hustle. So majority of the people who are in employment as well have side hustles. And what I've learned is the statistics that are given for a business to really stabilize, it takes up to 5 years. 5 years. So for 5 years, you have operational costs. I mean, you have so much involved that you really must have a solid kitty, Tracy, that will keep you going for however long it's going to take you until that business, you know, stabilizes. Personally, I think it's very tricky starting a business fresh out of campus.
There's also the risk it might actually take your interest away from your passion.
It will,
because now you're focusing on money, and the other side, one side has to suffer.
And listen, you need capital for that. And a lot of banks need you to be really solid. Accessing credit for majority of the people, Tracy, even for those who are already working, is quite a challenge in this country. So I'm not sure I'd really advocate.
What's the name of the student again?
Tracy.
Let me give a very personal. You know, I think I know where Tracy comes from. Tracy comes from a school. The school, we call it the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that the university is not supposed to just prepare you for a job. The idea that you come from the university a complete person. I think there are some schools that have that motto of or call that when you leave this institution, you are a complete person. So I think that is what Tracy is thinking about. And I think also there are a lot of programs these days, and there are some journalism schools where they offer what we call entrepreneurial courses. Entrepreneurial courses means it is a course that prepares you as an entrepreneur, so that if you are a journalist, and you graduate, you leave journalism school with the idea that I'm going to set up something for myself and actually run an entity. Of course, there are challenges, like Penina points out, you know, access to finance, credit challenges, particularly for young people. Again, you remember we were talking about internship and the question that, oh, so where have you worked before? Then probably even institutions that give finance might ask, but where is your experience in doing business? But
they need security as well for whatever credit they're giving you.
Collateral and stuff like that. But of course, I think entrepreneurship is something that we need to encourage, particularly in a very competitive job market where jobs are really just shrunk. The jobs are few. So even freelancing, if she's in her field, even she can begin freelancing, pictures, taking videos and trying to sell them to media organizations, partnering with other friends, working together. So I think that then begins to build the foundation for business.
I think it takes us back to the question that we tackled earlier about, was it Vati who was asking whether you need to go for internship first or just get into employment? Because I feel before anybody, and I get the point that you're speaking on about university students being the ones to create jobs. However, even with that, it requires experience. It requires as well a good amount of knowledge of the field into which you're venturing with your business, which is why I think it would be very important for them to start off at least with internship and even maybe a little bit of employment for you to be able to understand the field and your competition better. Because one thing I've learned, especially for me, I guess it's something that cuts across for us as journalists, is you go to campus and you're taught about journalism, but the theory of it doesn't quite capture the practicality of the ground.
The reality out there.
Exactly. And having done a side hustle myself, I can really tell you that
It's not as easy as
it is not as easy. And you get into it and you realize there's a lot more that wasn't captured in the lecture hall,
But then the other thing I keep on thinking, and I think it's also that it's really brave. It's a really brave idea. And I think if you're out there and the opportunities are not there, like you're looking for them and they're not as easily available, then now you have to create your own.
Right.
And if you are, I think if you have a good support system, this is the time when you have the least to lose. If you're living at home and you have parents who support you, who can maybe help you to secure a loan, or they can give you a loan themselves, and you have a bed every night and it's only you're taking care of, your costs are low. If you're going to jump, I think this is the best time to jump, because if you lose, you pick yourself up, which is also one of the things I always think is very important to learn early, is resilience. Like you fall and then you get up, you
dust yourself and work on it.
What did I learn? How do I?
But let me just weigh in with something, with a point there. In my time at the newspapers, in the very early days when I was a cab reporter, I remember there were colleagues who refused to be employed and made more money as freelancers, as correspondents working outside the organization. So this is a reality. And at some point I heard about intern doctors. Once you have become of age, why do you want to get a job? Why don't you just set up your own clinic and run your own clinic? So that's a challenge she's throwing out there.
I mean, it is, I think I still come back to the fact, I know the resilience is really, it's quite huge.
Word,
I think you really have to do your homework well, because you're dealing with more than just the challenges we've mentioned. You have to learn as well about paying your taxes, And I think so far, for those who are venturing into the digital spaces, they've had quite a bit of an easier time. But now, even as the laws of the country get revised and government is trying to also get in as much, more revenues from people, some of these digital spaces and other spaces that haven't been paying taxation are now getting targeted. So, Tracy, you really have to do your homework very well and get to understand what it is, how deep is the ocean into which you're plunging or diving before.
So basically what we all agree on, because the question was, is it risky to start my own business straight out of university? Yes, it's risky.
It is.
But it is actually worth it.
It's workable.
If you make it right.
Yeah, it's practical. Yeah.
You're going to face a lot of challenges. But if you overcome those challenges, it's going to be worth it in the end.
We've had a lot from the students, but I think we also have questions among things that we would like to ask each other, for example, that maybe we would have liked to know when we were younger, and now with the benefit of hindsight we can also share. So I think we can write down a few questions for each other. Do not cheat.
Actually, this is a good platform for me to find answers from some people on this panel that I have always wanted to.
Jerry, that sounds very threatening.
I think to the person who came up with this idea, thank you.
Okay, everybody.
I write like a doctor, so if you can't read what I've written, please feel free to ask me.
Okay, so that you can write 3,000 words.
Okay.
All right, who goes first? Do you want me to go first?
Wait, Jerry, I need to put my name.
Penina hasn't put.
So
but don't pick yours.
so the direction is I don't pick mine. Okay, I am code blue. So let me go with
Yellow.
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 I hope I'm not colorblind.
Whatever shade
Sure.
of yellow it is fine.
Yes. So four, this is an interesting one. What is the biggest lesson you have learned about life since you left campus? What is the biggest lesson you have learned about life since you left campus? Who's code yellow?
I did. I wrote that.
So
Yeah.
what's the thinking behind the question?
Because I think just listening to the questions we've been tackling here, you can tell there's a lot of hunger for these university students to want to know how it is once they step out of campus. You know, we've been here giving them the answers, but I was just trying to think about my time back then and the uncertainties about life that I had. And, you know, just wanting to have a feel of today so that I feel better prepared for that tomorrow. And so that's what I thought, okay, we could discuss some of our realities, like how you perceived life or what you heard about life while in campus versus how life turns out to be once you're in it. Remember, we said you could hear a lot of good things about a certain kind of business, but then the reality on the ground turns out to be different. So that was what informed that question.
All right, if I can just go straight to answering in my own perspective, I would say the biggest lesson I have learned since I left campus, and that was 10 years ago. You guys are making me feel old. I would say the biggest lesson I have learned is life is all about consistency and hard work. And in anything you do,
agree.
passion could open the doors for you, but consistency and hard work keep you there and open more doors. But the first door, of course, you need to be passionate about something. If you're getting into business, you need to be passionate about the business you're getting into. If you're starting a career, you need to be very passionate about whatever it is that you're getting into. But even if you're the most passionate person in the field that you're getting into, if you do not work hard, if you're not consistent enough, if you do not show up every day wanting to be better, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. And for me, that would be the biggest.
Very, very spot on. Very spot on, Jerry. And I can't agree more. You know, it's about patience. It's about consistency. Life is a journey, and it can be a very long journey sometimes, career-wise. And I think people start small. Of course, there are people who want to be something the following day, which is very unrealistic. But I've seen that patience, hard work, and dependability, the idea that your employer can depend on you, is very, very key. And consistency, and if I may talk about journalism specifically, because we are journalists here, and the life, there are people who enjoy doing what they do. And if they are a reporter, they just want to be a reporter.
Yeah.
They don't want to be a bureau chief or a managing editor or whatever. And they want to do that because I realize that sometimes quick movement in careers sometimes distract from the initial goals. I just wanted to be a reporter, to cover conflict, to cover war, to cover democracy, elections, to travel around the world, to travel around Africa. I know something that some of us here enjoys, like Penina. So, Jerry, I absolutely agree with you, and there's no better way to put it. Patience, consistency, and just giving your best every day. Yeah.
So for me, one of the things it is true that consistency is a big deal, but one of the things I have learned about life since I started working is one of those people who believes in formulas, or who used to believe in formulas. I went to school and
You're very scientific.
Yeah, very scientific. I like schoolwork was easy because there's a formula to it. 1 + 1 is 2, is always 2. The result is always the same. And life is very different because different people can do the same thing. All of us can follow the same formula with different outcomes. And I realized sometimes you have followed all the rules and still something goes wrong. And I would take a long time, staring at the problem, wailing, blaming myself, blaming others, if only. And I think being able to pick yourself up and say, this has happened. What do we do next? And then, just making the best out of things. Bad things happen. You don't take too long staring at it. You say, okay, this is terrible. What have I learned? What can I do better? You pick yourself up, you move. You pick yourself up, you move. And that's the same thing. You can't wail forever. And you also, life is not, there's no appeal system. You don't get to say, but I did all the right things and I should get, you just pick yourself up. It works in the newsroom, it works in your personal life, it works at work. Learn the lesson, apply it, and move on.
I think for me, I would say, much as we are also saying about all of these things, do not lose focus. Because I, for example, hopped straight into a job fresh from high school. I wasn't even 20 years yet. I was still a teenager. And I grew up in the village, which might have contributed to some of my character traits that I have today. I was just really focused.
So is that a good or a bad thing?
A really good thing in my case because it helped nurture and shape some of the character traits that I've got today. Because then you grow up in the village with a lot of responsibilities and they just follow you, they follow you wherever you go. And now I look back, and that was many, many, many years back, but it feels like it was literally just the other day. And so the thing I've learned is that life passes by so fast. So you could get out of campus and think, oh, I've got, because one of the things we hear often is you have your whole life ahead of you. Except these days, for some reason, the years just seem to fly by. So you really need to be focused on what it is that you want to do and achieve in life, and stay with that razor sharp focus, because like they say, you snooze, you lose. And before you know it, you'll have wasted your time going for sherehe, as we call them in Kenya, which are parties.
Party animal.
Yeah, and thinking I have my own life ahead of me. But in actual sense, the years are going, and every day you're growing older, and the world is changing, and changing so quickly that we looked back at some point for us in the media, and media was it, and it was vibrant, and it was thriving. But today we look at the media landscape, it's completely different, So you've got to rush and jump on these opportunities and make the best use of them before they run out. For me, that's my biggest takeaway in my life. Yeah.
That phrase, you only live once. Yes. It has to be reported.
No.
I'm the one who picked last.
Okay.
Well, Kisa, I think you can go next, and then we can do
Here
some more questions we have.
I'll pick your colors.
So I'll go with the blue. What have been your biggest challenges in employment so far? I can guess who.
Guess who, and then we can see that.
There aren't many people around this table, and this matches his t-shirt. This can only be Jerry.
If you're both watching.
It can only be Jerry. What have been your biggest? Oh, there's so many. There are so many.
First, I would have wanted to ask so many questions, because I have the liberty of knowing each one of you individually, and I would have had targeted questions. But just to make it general, I would also be very interested in knowing some of the challenges that you have faced, because all of us here are at different levels, age-wise and in health, all had different experiences, whether it's career-wise, whether it's just personal lives. But in employment, for the years that you've been, what are some of these challenges? Because again, challenges come in every week.
This is literally.
I'm wondering where to start.
I know it's a trip down memory lane.
It's a trip down memory lane, but there's so many things. Let us say for me, one of my interesting work challenges is simply my personality. Everybody who knows me well knows I'm an introvert. I am an introvert's guide to introversion.
She's very loud when she gets comfortable.
Introvert 101.
I am introvert 101. Introvert for beginners. And then I work in this industry where you need to be outgoing. You speak to people every day. You hear their stories. You cannot do that while sitting in a hole and whispering to people tell me something. And, the basic concept is you get people comfortable. You speak to them, they speak back to you. And so I have had to climb out of my shells, and that was a big deal for me. Now it sounds like something I can speak about everywhere. And it's not just out in the field. Journalism is teamwork. You work with your video editor, you work with your camera person, you work with your driver, you speak to people everywhere. You cannot live inside the shell. And so sometimes I think I have reserved a little piece of that shell that I take home sometimes, and I get to sit in that shell and I recharge sometimes. But when I come out ready to, speak to my editor, speak to everybody around me, come out and interact and engage. And I think that's the same thing, that basically working with people, being with different personalities, understanding each other, understanding them, having grace, and realizing we are not all the same, but the goal is the same. How to mobilize people towards one goal, even if you're very different. I think that is one of my biggest challenges.
I think for me, it's partly connected to what you talked about, the personalities, because in the workspace, you meet a myriad of, I like to call it a cocktail of personalities. And, there's what we call office politics. And this you're going to find no matter where you go. And nobody will fully prep you for that, by the way, But you need the job and you have to work. And whether you're in your own business or you're in employment, politics are everywhere. You know, if it's business, you find cartels, for example. Kenyans can very much relate with this. So how do you navigate around all of those challenges? I think for me, that has been one constant challenge. I've changed jobs severally, but in every office I've gone to, and to every person I have shared with, I've had them talk back about their own office politics they're dealing with. So you really have to develop a thick skin. Number two, you have to choose the battles that you will fight and those that you really don't want to keep on fighting. You cannot afford to say, oh, I can't deal with this anymore. I mean, you have to, there are instances that will call for you to make such decisions, but you have to know when are those instances. They cannot be every time Jerry elbows you out of a cafeteria queue, you know, like, yeah. And then you also have to answer to a boss who maybe one way or other, you know. So like really knowing how to handle those different personalities, being able to know which wars do I fight, which ones do I keep away from, when do I keep my mouth shut, when do I say something, and if you have to say something, how do you say it, you know? All of this for me, I think are challenges that we have to deal with, and not just in our office spaces, but even in societies where we live, in the estates, you know, in public transport systems, everywhere with our governments, it's everywhere really. But it's a skill we develop. I don't think you really truly master it, but as you grow into these spaces, you learn to be able to pick out, you know, what to handle and what to keep off. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this Jerry is asking this question. Yeah? So this is to Jerry. Yeah, me, I could speak about this the whole day because I've been here a long time. But let me just pick two areas. One is managing people. I've been an editor, and at some point in my career, I was managing over 300 journalists. And these are 300 personalities. And like Penina is saying, sometimes for me, the biggest challenge was, how do I get the best out of each one of them? Like in the newspaper, I had people who knew how to source a story, but they couldn't write. And I had people who could write, but didn't know how to source a story. So how do you get the best out of the two? How do you partner them? How do you make teamwork produce results in an environment where people's abilities are very different? So sometimes this creates tensions. And how do you manage those tensions? So that is one area. People management is a key thing in work, particularly if you are given the responsibility of managing people, which I was given at some point.
There should be courses for bosses to take.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Newsrooms are actually boiler room places, oven temperature, you know, particularly when deadlines approach. And sometimes people can shout and yell, not because there's something personal, but just because stuff must be delivered at the right time. So how do you balance between yelling and shouting at a colleague and still being able to walk out the door and come back tomorrow and still maintain normal relationships? So these are things I have gone through. And sometimes you make friends, sometimes you make enemies, but you always try to say, this is not personal. This is just work. So that is really, really important. You know, the tensions, the pressure, you know, and the deliverables that have got to do with work. Then there is this thing called assessment. We call it appraisal at CGTN. How do you honestly tell an employee, you don't just make the cut, or you make the cut? People take offense. So how do you assess somebody objectively, you know, without favoring them because, oh, there might be a fallout, or you see. So these are serious challenges at work and in employment. How do you assess somebody objectively and telling them, ensuring them that they go away knowing that there was nothing personal, that you were just grading them according to how they deliver. So this is still about people. So it's quite a challenge, you know. And then, of course, there are journalists or their colleagues who want to move quickly and they want to play outside, you know, the normal, the normal way of doing things within the newsroom. So there is also a tendency to try to undercut, you know, undermine. So how do you manage? Yeah, so it's really about the balance, finding a balance in the workplace, you know. Yeah. And so Penina talked about culture, socio-cultural, you know, in an environment where we are multiracial. having come from a specific background, how do you mix? How do you appreciate other cultures? You know, there might be misunderstandings, but how do you need to learn? You know, so there's also a learning process.
Definitely.
You know, yes.
And I think I'll still come to your desks personally, so that we can continue that discussion, because I feel like there's still a lot that you could tell me. I was also expecting probably someone to mention how their personal lives sort of also affect or impact, not even affect, which is negative or positive, their professional work, because I think that also plays a huge part in whether or not you're going to make strides forward in your career and in the profession.
Okay, so Dagi, you hadn't picked.
Let me see. Interesting. Once you get into the job market, what is the most important trait to make yourself effective and efficient?
Who asked that question?
That's what you said.
I asked it because I thought we have been talking about how to secure opportunities, which everybody is very anxious about, given that opportunities are limited, employment opportunities at least. But once you get in, you have the opportunity you've gotten in. How do you ensure that it doesn't slip through your fingers, that you can hold on to it, that you can do a good job, that you are an asset to the organization that you have entered?
Deliverables, when you get employed, they set the deliverables, this is your role, this is our role, So I think deliverables, being consistent, being productive, having initiative, all these things they talk about, You must be somebody who's innovative in situations where there is uncertainty. You must be somebody who takes initiative. You don't have to always wait to be told, You should always be ahead, initiative. You must be somebody who knows how to work with others, a team player, not... you said you are an introvert. But I hope you extrovert. Yeah. Be somebody who's dependable. Can your employer depend on you? Be somebody who colleagues look up to, as a leader, You don't have to appoint yourself one. Yeah, so all these things. But most importantly, I think once you get into the job, once you've secured a job and you're working, and I think the most important thing is because the times keep changing, like technology really is changing the ecosystem of all work environments. They are not the same like they were in the 1990s. Even just as recently as 2015, the workplace today in 2026 is totally different. So that means that we have to keep upgrading our skill sets. Be interested in learning more. They say situational awareness. You don't wait to be caught up with things. Yeah. So that way, I think you develop traits that makes your employer want to keep you. Yeah.
When you think you're a good fit.
Yes, a good fit. Right.
I actually agree with you fully, Douglas. And if I can just narrow down what you've said, it's just it all boils down to do your job. But that might sound a bit harsh, but that is exactly what your employer and your colleagues expect of you. Once you're employed, of course, you have a job description that states from point A to H to the J. Just if you do those at the very minimum, if you do those, you're fine. Of course, your employers or your different professions or careers are always going to ask of you to deliver even beyond those. But at the very minimum, you need to just do what your job description says you do. And if you are now passionate enough, if you are consistent enough, if you're looking to keep getting better day by day, week by week, you are always going to try to be innovative enough, and you're always going to try to go a level further, a step further, so that you deliver even more and you're able to take on even more responsibilities. And that is what your colleagues are going to expect of you. That is what your employer will desire of you. If you do that, it's even better. But at the very minimum level, just deliver on your job description.
Yeah, and I think all of what they have said, and also being adaptable, highly adaptable, because they say the only constant in life is change. So there'll always be changing times throughout, even we, our own selves, we evolve, who you are at 19 is not who you are at 30. And so being adaptable means that you're not just pleasing your employer, but you're also adding on to yourself, because it means when we're tackling issues such as lack of employment, for example, you'll always be able to change with the times and always get a hold of the opportunities that keep coming up as the world evolves. Which brings me to the last question. Oh my goodness, this must be Dagis because the handwriting is horrible.
I'm the doctor in the room.
I'm curious to know. You're a lecturer, Dagis. When your students write the way you do, well, lucky for you now, everybody's into digital
I
things,
think
yes.
faster than I can write. That's the problem.
But Douglas asks, what is the use of a job description? What made you ask that question?
I think for you to do your job, you must know what your job is. And this is important because you are told this at the point at which you are being employed. So a job description spells out your role in the organization, your duties, your responsibilities, you know. It's like your covenant, you know, when you sign on a covenant, your commitment, you know, with the employer. And I think it is really important because we get constantly appraised at work. And this is the indicator, the marker. You know, you cannot assess what is not measurable, right. You know. Yeah. So a job description helps you to say, Jerry, you are a reporter. Or Jerry, you are a driver. And it's very clear what your roles are.
So now we've spoken about, you know, being adaptable, learning new skills. And I'm just wondering, are they still relevant though, these job descriptions? Because I mean, look at us all seated here. I think besides Jerry, the rest of us really, and this is not part of our job description.
No, as long as they are jobs, there will always be a job description.
My point though is that, for example, take me. My job description would say, as I introduced myself at the top, at the very top of this podcast was, I am a news anchor / reporter, right?
Yes.
However, I have found that I have gone over and beyond, you know. Sometimes the needs in the office have required that I step beyond what the job description says. And I remember earlier on in my career in one of the local media stations, I just wasn't a reporter and anchor. We had a musical show back then. And this musical show used to be played out on television live. And it involved people, you know, sending out their shout outs. And for whatever reason, perhaps because I was the youngest in the newsroom at the time, they decided you are going to come every time the show is on air. You go to the gallery and your work is to sift through all of these things coming out and just pull them out of the computer and onto all the shout outs, you know. And I feel like that's the scenario in every office that people work in, that you'll always be required to step out of what we call a job description. So are they still important?
I do think they are. I think you can't start, it's like a roadmap. You might, you know, we are driving from Nairobi to Kisumu. That's the plan. Something might happen along the way and we need to deviate.
Right.
But we have to start out with a plan. We can't just get into the vehicle and drive anywhere and say, we'll stop wherever we want to stop. And that's the same thing. I think, like, you know, there's a boundary, creating boundaries, drawing out the expectations. What do we expect? And if I'm doing this, this is not exactly what I would usually do, but I'm stepping out. Like, let's start out with a plan, because I think otherwise it's a recipe for chaos.
Anarchy, total anarchy, I agree.
Like, you're right in the office, and the driver is typing up documents, and everybody, you know, like, it's just everybody's doing everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can agree that, okay, this is not what I should be doing, but we need an extra hand, let's add to it. So I think it helps with drawing boundaries and just being able to say that's a little past what I'm doing, or I might need to build up my skills some more. I'm not quite there yet, but I can work towards it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I agree with Wilkis. I think the whole basis is too many cooks spoil the broth. So you need to know what is expected of you in this kitchen, because the final product is that serving on a plate. And everyone contributes to that in a different way.
Yeah.
If you're going to be the one who's responsible for, let's say, ingredient X, or probably chopping down the ingredients, and then we find you already stirring the soup, that's leave that.
That's not your job.
Whoever's supposed to do that will do that. And everyone has different sets of skills and experiences, and even the passion bit of it. So all these are supposed to plug into one final product.
The bigger objectives of the organization.
That is the desire of this particular organization. So I think with the job description, it helps in that way. But also, as an employee, it helps you also when you're negotiating. Because if you have 4 responsibilities and someone else has 50 responsibilities, this guy with 50 responsibilities, you're able to, convene a meeting with whoever hired you and tell, you know what, you've given Jerry 4 responsibilities and I have 10. The same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, I think, just to make everything streamlined, but also as an employee, it sort of shields you.
So it's a marker, it's the indicator, it's the measure, it's the yardstick.
However, the reality on the ground is that you will often be required to go beyond.
Adaptability, Panina, adaptability. And you said it yourself, adaptability.
Growth.
I've worked as a commentator when the commentator didn't turn up. So we are out there on assignment. We are at the African Union, actually. We are waiting for a commentator to come. 0 commentator. I've been thrown at the deep end of things.
That reminds me of some time back in the local media when you have a lot of these live political events.
Yes.
And you'd be there and you're anchoring the show.
Yeah.
And, because the situations, I'm sorry to confine it to newsroom, but maybe that's because majority of us were there. But you'd find that the content isn't ready, but you're already on air. And so the news director is busy just saying, keep talking, keep talking.
Say something. Say something.
So I guess, you really have to be prepared to go out of that job description. Like we said, it's to keep you on track, but it doesn't mean that you're confined to that. Do your job, as one of our cameramen likes to tell us, do your job. But just know that you need other skill set to take you beyond, and I guess to also keep you relevant in the job market,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's been a great conversation we've had here, the 4 of us. It feels short, I know. It feels short, and I really hope we've been able to answer your questions. But we'd like to also welcome your feedback, whatever suggestions, comments, even further questions that you have. Feel free to reach out on our social media platforms, and hopefully we can be able to tackle them.
Careers are rarely built overnight. It comes through persistence, continuous growth, and the willingness to seize opportunities as they arise. At the same time, empowering young people with knowledge and opportunity is an important part of Africa's development journey, and one that creates new possibilities for international cooperation, including between China and Africa. Thank you for listening to this episode of China Africa Talk. You can find us on major podcast platforms and on Substack. I'm Gao Junya. Bye for now.